So the parking brake is release is right under here. So it's kind of hard to find, but it's right underneath this button. By the way, this button, just in case the battery of the coach dies, you can use this to start it with the house battery, and that's what that button's for. Rarely would need to use that, but if you need to jump, you just push the button. So to release the brake, you pull it. To apply it, you just stuck your foot down and you're good. That's it for that. The next thing you do is you plug in the electric. So this is where the electric door is. It says warning on the outside. You take the key, you turn it to the right, you open it up, and here's the power cord that goes and plugs into the 30 amp socket. However, you need to take this through the hole. So come over here. You got to open this up. That allows the plug to come through. You pull it down in, and I like to go and get quite a bit of the cable, the wire out. This, by the way, is a converter from 30 amp to 15 amp. You won't need that unless you're at your house, possibly. Power it up, then you pull it through. And then I'm going to set this in here temporarily. I'm going to come over to the plug. Okay, so down here is your 30 amp plug. You'll see your 50 amp. That's a 50 amp. That is not for us. 30 amp is us. That's 110. The 110 would be only if they don't have 30 amp, but you'll see it plugs right in. You can't go wrong. Now, the way I tell people to check if the power's on is to check the microwave, but I can clearly see the 30 amp breaker is off, so I turn it on. And then you check the microwave. If the microwave has power, then you're good to go. So now we see that the microwave has power. So if we want to set the clock, check the time. It is 3:50, about 3:54. So I hit clock, 3:54. I think clock, and then, oops. Sorry, you see you can hit it twice. It goes to PM, 3:54. There we go. So now we have time for the rest of the vacation. In the compartment that's almost to the rear, the small little compartment underneath the speaker, there is wooden blocks for the auto levelers. They're typically used for like grassy areas, but I recommend doing them all the time anyway, because for one, they'll give you an extra inch of leveling power. So you simply go underneath here and slide one under each leveler. So here's a level. Let's see that. So that's square under there. Okay, so this is the equalizer leveling system. You have to power it on first. If all the lights are not on, then it's no power. So I push power, the power button's on. And then we hit auto level. When I hit this, what's going to happen is it's going to auto level the whole coach. There are some times when the front wheels might come off the ground. That's probably not a great situation, but we've done it before. It's just not recommended. But sometimes there's no way around it depending on your campsite. Ours is sloping downward, so I'm going to curious to see how much higher it comes up in the back on the back wheel. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to press the auto level button, and here we go. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is we want to turn off the power step, because every time you close the door, you'll hear it. You might not be able to see it, but it goes in and out every time you're going in and out. We don't want to do that while we're camping. So we're going to go down here and we're going to turn the power step button off. That will leave it out the whole time. When you leave, you turn it back on. It's on the checklist, but if you do forget, don't worry about it. When you put the ignition in and you start the car, it will pull the step in. So it's a safety catch. So this key works all of the underneath storage of the Jayco RV, and the thing is you can't take the key off unless it's in the locked position, so it won't let you take it out. So you have to take it out locked, but then you can't close it. So you have to always turn it in, turn it to the right, pull it out, and do the same with this one. Alright, next step. turn off the water pump because we're going to turn on, this is full hookup, so we're going to turn on the water pump, turn off the water pump, because typically what I'll do when I deliver the IV to you guys, you'll have the water pump on so you can get water while you're driving down the road, stop at rest areas and all that stuff. So we're going to turn the water pump off. Alright, so this is the control panel. We're going to do several different things with this, but right now the next step on my list is to turn the water pump off, step number 5, because we are going to hook up city water. Now if you have electric only at your campsite, then you're going to want to leave that on and just keep the water from the tank. But if you're full hookup, you turn the water pump off because we're going to turn the water, city water on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect up the sewer hose. The next step on the list. Again, I can take the key out, but it locks. Here's my sewer hose. I also have this in here, which helps with the grade of the sewer. We'll show you how that works in a second. Just take this yellow piece off, throw it in here. We'll keep that over here. Okay, so down here, you just turn this cap to the left, pop it off. Don't make sure those are closed before you do that, or they're kind of stinky. And then you just put this on here with these hooks, turn it until it stops, and then we feed this into our lovely sewer, like that. And use this to grade it down. Looks like it's twisted. You see it's kind of twisted. You can turn this to get it to seat right. And I'm thinking I might put this on here with a little extra weight to keep that from popping off. It's not exactly an ideal sewer system here at this campground. And like I said, this sometimes will work and sometimes it might not. Just try to get it to a straight line. Not a good setup down here. I'm not real happy with that, but there's not much I can do about that. Okay. Now, when you are camping, the black is on the left, the gray is on the white, the black is the toilet, the gray is the shower and sinks. You want to turn the gray always all the way on. And you'll hear it draining no matter how good you try to drain these things, there's always some residual in there. So we'll leave the black shut, mainly because you want to fill up the black tank with water and whatever you do in the black tank. And then when you're done, ready to rinse it, you pull that open before you leave the campground, or sometimes in between. You don't want that to fill up on you. Which, by the way, the black holding tanks, and I'll show you in a minute, and the gray watering tanks, the gauges don't work. So brand new RV, never worked anyway. So the gray is going to be left open so you can take showers, water will just flow out, sinks, everything will go and flow. Okay, so now we're going to do the water. Let me unlock this. Oops, I just locked it. It wasn't locked. 50-50 chance. There's magnets up here to help hold the door open. Keep in mind, if you forget to leave this open and you push the slide out, it will scare you because it's going to slam this shut. It will not hurt anything, but it just kind of freaks you out a little bit. There's a table in here. We will take that and use that for our campsite. So I'm going to get that over here. Careful. Use the white hose, and absolutely positively this is mandatory. This is a pressure regulator. If you don't put that on, it could blow all the pipes in the RV, and that would be a very expensive fix. So make sure that this brass thing is on here when you stop, when you put it on, as well as when you leave, because I've seen people leave them there thinking it's part of the actual faucet. There is an extra one in the RV if that gets lost. All right, so you simply just screw it on, nice and tight. So hopefully there's no leaks. Okay, and then you connect the other end into the RV, into the city water connection. This is for cleaning out the black sewer tank. We'll get into that later when we leave. And just simply be careful not to strip this and make sure it's threading properly before you force it. It should go very nice and easy. If it's not going nice and easy, that's a bad thing. I do have extra washers in here in the RV in the junk drawer. If this is leaking while you can't get it to stop leaking while you're camping, I recommend just popping one out and putting a new one in. All right, let's see if we turn on the water and see if there's any leaks. Over here. This is kind of an interesting thing. You'll find these at a lot of campgrounds. They're not valves. They're basically just pull them. Whoops. Oh, that's a good point. But pull this down. I've seen this happen before. This is like I'm not sure what. Maybe it's to wash pans or something. But you pull that down, and then you push it up. Okay, water is flowing. Now, all right, inside this tank cabinet here is your valves, and you want it to be on city fixtures, 2 and 6. So 2 and 6, so up and over, and that's it. So we're in 2 and 6. Normal when we're on the road, we would do 3 and 5. So that's for that. Yeah, so 2 and 6. And then if you need water in the tank, if you're going to leave for some reason, you want some water in there, you just put it at 1 and 6, and it will start filling the tank. That's it. So that's pretty much it for the outside. We got the sewer, we got the water, we got the electric. Like I said, if it's full hookup, you got all those 3 components. Sometimes you'll come to campgrounds that will offer water and electric, but no sewer. You just have to manage the tank. So if it needs to be dumped, you're going to have to take the RV down, drive it down to the dump station, dump it, and bring it back. All campgrounds, 99% that I've been in, you have to back into your campsites. This particular one, we had to go all the way down to the end, turn around and come back because there was no way to turn it around. They're positioned in that position, so you had to go do a U-turn, come back, and then back in. Okay, so here's your control panel. We already talked about the water pump. You won't need tank heaters unless you're in below 32 degrees. If you are, then you turn those on. Simple as that. This is to extend the bedroom, and this is extend the living room. So when I push extend, it'll start to extend. Sometimes you have to push it a second time to get it going. I'm not sure why, but it's just one of those RV things. So I'm gonna start pushing this extension. You can see how it works. And you'll see that the bed is going out, and please make sure there's no trees out there in your way. We already checked that because we were walking all around there. We'll make sure there's plenty of clearance. And when you bring it in, make sure you have your plugs out of the plugs and all that stuff, and make sure it's clear and free of everything. And you have to push and hold the button until it's done, and then when it stops, you can let go of the button. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the living room. All right, that's that. So we extend the living room. Let's turn on the hot water heater now. This compartment right here is a tankless hot water system. You open it by clicking that button, pull it open, and there's a little power switch here. The 0 is off, or the O is off or circle, and then that is on, so the power's on. So you're good to go. Now, technically speaking, I didn't show you how to do this, but you turn the gas on down here. If it's off for some reason, you can turn the gas on from this compartment right here. And there's a valve right here that turns the gas on. That should be all the way to the left. And then to close it, you just snap it shut. Sometimes I like to reseat this little black thing to make sure it sits nicely in there. And that's it. So now we have hot water. This is the power unit for the water heater, and what you want to do is make sure it's set to about 104 degrees. And the reason we do this is because it's tankless, and the water pressure in an RV really isn't great. We have found that it's best to just set the temperature of what you want to take your shower with and only turn on the hot water valve, and then you can control the temperature of what it's coming out at. I usually put a little bit of cold on there just to give a little bit more water pressure, but if you did both, you might have that fluctuating thing go where you're hot, cold, so that's what we found. Getting back over to these controls here, we did the slide outs, the tank heaters, the water pump. This tells you how good the battery is. Of course, that's irrelevant if you're plugged in. It's always going to be on full. Freshwater tank is what's inside the freshwater. That is the only accurate valve. You saw me pull the gray water valve out there in this video, and you'll see it still says it's a third full, but we know it's empty because it's open and flowing. Black water is full, but it's not. I know it's empty. So unfortunately, the gray and black don't really tell you much, and that bums me out, but it is what it is. If you're ever riding down the road and you want to have this is something I really don't recommend you use, so I probably shouldn't even go into it, but this will turn the TV on in the back bedroom, but that means somebody's going to be laying on the bed while you're driving down the road. But if you just push and hold it, turns on the power inverter, and it will run the 110 TV on the road while you're going down the road. If you're dry camping, which I usually don't let people dry camp, you can turn the inverter on and watch the front TV and the back TV, but when you're driving, the front TV is turned off from a safety reasons. So, but if you're dry camping with no electricity, you can turn the power inverter on. Just make sure you watch the battery management and don't let it go below 1/3. If you do need power or to charge the battery, you can run the generator. And to run the generator, there's a start and a stop. You push the stop button first. I like to do it until I see the red light, as well as the hours on the hour meter. So you'll see once it goes on, now I've got 259 hours. I just hit the start key, and we have the generator running. So now if you are dry camping with no power, this will give you 110 volts, so like 30 amp, 110. You can run all the air conditioning and everything. Not only that, it charges the battery. You do not need to run the generator all the time unless it's really hot and you need to run the air conditioner, but that's how the generator works. And then to stop it, you just hit it once and it'll shut it down. We don't need it because we have full hookup. So that's pretty much that control panel. Nothing else in there to talk about. So these are removable, but you might want to get some extra counter space. It just depends on what you're doing. But you can see I use it for storage when I travel. It's nice to have something down there put in there if you want to store something. So we bring in some extra water. So if you want extra counter space, you don't have to put these away, but I like to at least leave one open. Keep that one there so we have sink. And then over here in the pantry, I'll stick it alongside the cutting boards in here and store it. And pantry, by the way, this is where you can store all your food. We've got a refrigerator that runs on propane when you're driving down the road. However, that is not recommended. And you also have a freezer, separate freezer, and bring your own ice. It doesn't have an ice maker. Don't worry about setting any of the temperatures. That should all be set to the right temperatures and modes. Everything's automatic. As I mentioned, if you run the propane, it will run on propane. But if you ever see a code that's called C, it will have a C in here, and you're running on your dry camping, meaning no power, that means your battery's getting low. So you have to start your generator and run it for a while, charge your battery, and then that C will go away. That means that the refrigerator unit is not getting enough power to cool itself down. So we've already talked about the power step. We want that on the off position when we're camping, and then turn it on when you leave. So it goes in whenever you're opening and closing the door. This is just for exterior lights. Puts a little amber light on the outside. It also puts a light on the steps. This is for interior lights. If you click that on, you'll see that it turns on the interior lights inside the RV. Down below that, we talked about our levelers, but here are some outside speakers. So if you're playing music, you can actually turn the speakers on outside. This is for the awning lights. Once the awning is deployed, there's some LED lights in there that you can turn on to give you light at night. And then this is how you put the awning in and out. I do want to let you know that it will go back out and will come back in on the out one. So you want to make sure you don't do that because it will wrap up backwards. There's no stopping it. So to do it out, you basically just push that button. And if you look at the top, you'll see there's a flap that normally comes down. There's the flap. And there's your LED lights. I'll just turn them on real quick so you can see what they look like. And that gives you a lot of light at night. Sometimes I'll aim it up a little bit to give it a little less direct light if you want, so you can mess around with that as well. Okay, so once you're camped and if it's warm out or if it's cold out, this is the thermostat, and you hit the bottom long button here, basically toggles through all the different settings. So the first thing I think is like fan, then it's AC, and then it's electric heat, and then it's gas heat. So it's June, we're going to go with electric air conditioner. So I just basically touch this. I want to pass it where it says cool high. I'm going to put on cool high auto, and then you can adjust the thermostat. I'm going to put it like at something like 73 degrees. And then you'll hear the air conditioner kick on in a second, hopefully. There we go. So on the air conditioner thing, these vents here, if you close those, what that does is it pushes the air through all of the upper vents, like here, here. So if you're coming in from a hot day and you want to run this and cool down the inside of the cab quickly, just open those up, but you're going to have less heat air coming out of that, either cold or hot air coming out of those vents. So we're doing pretty good at 78 degrees in here. We're just going to keep it closed, let it run.